All right, everyone. I'm making another XJW video, or we should say Jehovah's Witness video. XJW Critical Thinker, they made a really good video yesterday, I believe, talking about the Zoom meetings and obviously the hypocrisy when it comes to quarantining during, the epidemic going on right now. And at very first, the branch was mentioning don't add guilt, don't do this kind of stuff, which was very interesting to me in him, obviously, because uh, this is completely contrary to how everyday life in Jehovah's Witnesses is, because it's all about guilt. It's all about shaming people and making them, submit to authority, essentially. And he made out a really good point about it reminding him of 1984 and how now they're using Zoom to get into people's homes. And as a person that served in a congregation in kind of a elevated status as a ministerial servant in a congregation that only had 3 elders, so I was very privy. I went on shepherding calls, I passed emblems, and I did a lot of stuff that elders did as a ministerial servant, just because there wasn't enough bodies. That being said, elders most definitely want to be inside your home. They most definitely want to be involved in your life in an intimate way. I don't necessarily know if they think it's on their part or they're just instructed to. It could be either or, because there's a lot of creepy people who just love control. And so he's making us a point about this being like 1984 and them kind of using Orwellian measures and using the epidemic to their advantage to get inside people's house to make them, fold and submit further than what they already are. Now, as a ministerial servant, you're always under the microscope of the congregation. You're constantly being viewed and judged and seen by the elders. And it wouldn't be rare for an elder to stop by your home at a random time, come inside, okay, uninvited, and talk for a bit, then leave. And then the next day you're pulled in the back room and being counseled on how clean your house was. Okay, this was very normal for ministerial servants and even elders for that matter, or just other people in the congregation. Pioneers were also under similar pressure, and you're constantly, put under scrutiny for this kind of matter. So most people would not put up with this kind of stuff, but when you're in the congregation and you're indoctrinated in the religion, and you think these guys are, appointed by the Holy Spirit, and so essentially God-driven, you submit to it very readily. And so it's no shocker to me to see the Zoom meetings acting this way. Another fun point was I did know elders. They always had like a spy elder who was on social media. So when you see Jehovah's Witnesses that have like elders on their friends list or on Instagram, it's more than likely a spy elder who's keeping track on what you're doing, what you're saying, and things like that, and they will use it against you. Most of this happened to me when I made a post about being very depressed. They were telling me I could not be a ministerial servant before I was appointed because of my depression, and it was giving a bad light to the congregation and making everyone and Jehovah's people need to be positive and happy. And so that was a great thing to tell somebody who was majorly depressed. This is before I did the Linden method and fixed myself. But they most definitely do read your post and they will use it against you. And they usually have an assigned elder who's watching it and things like that. And it's not even, doesn't really mean the elders, the other witnesses are watching you and making sure. And so even to this day, now that I've been gone for a couple of years and no longer identify as a Jehovah's Witness, I still am and like worrisome of posting certain things on my Facebook, because I'm afraid of what perception it'll come across and what people will say, and how this will affect me personally. And most other people, I don't necessarily deal with this too much, especially since I don't necessarily have too many close, intimate friends anymore since leaving Jehovah's Witness, because I have to start over, and so that's kind of how it is. Now, I do have a lot of new friends, and I'm very thankful for them. But that being said, JT mentioned, and JT is an ISTJ if anyone was wondering about that, and his wife, Lady C, is an ESFP. They're a very compatible marriage. You see their long, happy marriage. They're actually the pedagogue relationship because they share the same judging functions. They're both FI users, both TE users, but the perfect sexual compatibility and wants and wanting to give what the other person wants. That kind of stuff is all great. I don't know if I gave too much information or not, but whatever. they put it out that witnesses are now being, when they go to Zoom meetings, so they're going to church through Zoom. And so, and if somebody turns the camera off because they're shy, they don't want to have everyone looking at them inside their home, they get a phone call from their elders telling them to turn their camera back on and to be part of the congregation. So you will get obviously judged digitally. Okay. They expect you to be shaved. So if you haven't shaved, even though you're not really at the meeting, you're going to get instructed to shave. If you're not dressed up in a suit and tie and with a dress, like you're at meeting, you will get counseled on that. Obvious, if they can tell that your house is not clean, you will be counseled on that. And they literally want you to take a selfie, apparently, of who was watching this so they can keep track of who it is. In this case, it's actually worse than what it was at the Kingdom Hall, because a lot of times at the Kingdom Hall, you can go and sit in the back or you can be late and people aren't really paying attention to what you're doing. And so you're not really being tracked. But now that's digital, you're definitely being tracked, more so. And there can be more direct count because they know everyone is home. And so there's no reason for you to miss it because you're obviously not working because you're supposed to be quarantined. And so there's really no excuses. I guess if you're on a respirator in the hospital, that might be a different story. They might give us some leniency there, but who knows? And so I just thought that was interesting. And no, that's not surprising. My experience as a ministerial servant, my experience with dealing with elders and what they did to me, what they did to others, what I was encouraged to do. Back when I was one, I definitely snitched on many people. I would judge people based on their Instagram and their Facebook photos and what they posted. And if they posted something questionable, I definitely would either talk to them or talk to the elders. That's how you're trained to be as a Jehovah's Witness. And, reporting and snitching is all part of cult life. And cult life is always about handpecking and keeping people in line. And so, that's where you have Paul, who wrote the Pauline scriptures, which clearly taught how to be in a cult, and definitely had the snitch thing about, hey, you would need to turn this guy in because he's sleeping with his father's stepmother or whatever, daughter or something like that. And if you're blood guilty, if you don't report him because you're turning him over to Satan, all this other nonsense. And so no, witnesses are just following what the Bible teaches, and snitch culture is a Christian thing. Keeping everyone in line with the congregation is a Christian thing. Now, if your small church or your Unitarian church or whatever church you go to does not do this anymore, that's great, okay? That means you're not following the Bible, which is fine too, because the Bible is outdated and needs to be tossed out and not followed anymore, because it's literally, in my opinion, dangerous and completely misleading in how any kind of sane person needs to be living. That being said, that's all my thoughts on this. 1984, Orwellian part of life in the Kingdom Hall digitally. No, it's no shocker. Any kind of government or any kind of organization, people who get in places of control desire this. Typically, they're going to be the control types. They're going to be your structure types, and they hate people getting out of control. And to anticipate this happening and to put a stop to it later on makes their life easier, and that's really all they care about. And so that's how that is in that anyways.